Welcome to the meeting of the Committee of Adjustment. This is the first meeting for the new term of council, so there is no chair or secretary treasurer appointed to the committee currently, but that will be later in the agenda. First, we have the land acknowledgement, and Mayor Danielson will read that.
We respectfully acknowledge that the Township of Algonquin Highlands is located on Treaty 20 Mishi-Saugig territory and in the traditional territory of the Mishi-Saugig and Chippewa Nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations. We also acknowledge a historical shared presence of other Indigenous nations throughout the area. We recognize these original inhabitants as the stewards of its lands and waters since time immemorial.
And the next order of business is to select the committee chair. So I'm not sure if there's any volunteers that just put their name forward.
I would volunteer.
Okay.
Thanks, John.
Be it resolved, or moved by John Rogers, second by Christine Sharp, be it resolved, the Committee of Adjustment hereby appoints Liz Danielson as the committee chair for the current term of council. All those in favor? It's carried.
Thank you for your vote of confidence. As the chair of the committee, I'd like to introduce the members of the committee. We have John Rogers, public member, Christine Sharp, public member, Sabrina Richards, member of council, and public member Chris Woods. In addition, we are joined by our planner, Sean O'Callaghan. Mr. O'Callaghan will provide a brief overview of each application, after which the applicant or their agent will have an opportunity to address the committee. Following this, anyone wishes to speak to the application either in support of or against will be given an opportunity to do so. The committee will then discuss the proposal and be given the opportunity to ask questions of both our planner and the applicant. The committee will then vote to grant, refuse, or defer the proposal. Having said that, we do need to appoint a secretary treasurer. And I'm assuming that would be yourself.
Unless there's any volunteers.
The likelihood of that is not strong. Could I have a mover and a seconder then to appoint John as our secretary treasurer? Moved by Chris and seconded by Sabrina. Thank you. All in favor? That's carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof on any of the applications for today? Hearing none. Could I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda? Moved by Sabrina Richards, seconded by John.
Moved by Sabrina Richards, second by John Rogers, be it resolved, the Committee of Adjustment hereby approves as circulated the meeting agenda of February 24th, 2023.
All in favor? It's carried. Could I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the minutes of October the 11th? Moved by John Rogers, seconded by Chris Woods. Thank you.
Moved by John Rogers, second by Chris Woods, be it resolved, the Committee of Adjustment hereby approves as circulated the meeting minutes of October 11th, 2022.
All in favor? That's carried. So those are the general resolutions, just as a point of information for the committee and the public, that for the items that are under new business, the applications we received, the secretary treasurer will ask each of us what our vote is on the matter. So on to new business. The first application is by Kelly in the Township of Stanhope on Couchog Lake.
Now, this property is located at 3468 Couchog Lake Road. The lands are zoned shoreline residential type 1 and designated waterfront under the official plan. The property is approximately 0.84 acres in area with 90.5 meters of frontage on Couchog Lake. Surrounding uses are generally shoreline residential, rural, and commercial, and the lands are currently developed with a single family dwelling. The applicants are proposing to construct a 2-story, 724 square foot detached garage. The existing lot depth, topographical constraints, and existing site infrastructure, including the driveway and septic, do limit the available building location for the proposed detached garage that would comply with the zoning bylaw. Therefore, the following minor variance is being requested. That is from section 4.2.8 of the zoning bylaw to reduce the minimum setback from the high water mark from 30 meters to 6 meters to permit the construction of a 2-story, 724 square foot detached garage. Notice of the application was posted on the property, posted on the township website, and circulated to property owners within 60 meters of the subject lands, as well as to the Couchog Lake Property Owners Association. One objection was received from the Couchog Lake Property Owners Association, citing concerns with the proximity to the water, the removal of vegetation, and concerns about the second story of the garage. 5 letters of support were also received from adjacent property owners. And staff are recommending approval of the proposed minor variance with the following conditions. 1, confirmation being provided from an Ontario land surveyor that the proposed detached garage is not located closer than 6 meters from the high water mark prior to any clearing or site alteration or the issuance of a building permit. 2, a site assessment and environmental impact, a site assessment and or environmental impact assessment being completed to the satisfaction of the planner, confirming there will be no negative environmental impacts resulting from the proposed development. And just a note on that condition. So a portion of the property is zoned environmentally protected. So the zoning bylaw does require that to take place prior to any development within that EP zone. And the third condition being that appropriate construction mitigation measures be implemented, including the erection and maintenance of silt fencing between the proposed building and the shoreline.
Thank you, Sean. Are there any questions of Sean or concerns that any members would like to raise? Mr. Rogers.
I've had an email discussion with Sean about this. I'm a little concerned, and I hadn't seen the comments from the Lake Association, but I have the same concern that the space above this garage is it has 8-foot ceilings, 8-foot 1-inch ceilings, and that concerns me that could become living space. And there is a clause that says sometimes put in, we don't normally do it here, but I think in this case, it might be helpful to put in a clause that says there to be no living quarters in this structure, and that there be no interior water fixtures in this structure. That way you ensure that you're not going to get living space in there. I know it's supposed to be a garage and we have our bylaw enforcement, but I think in this particular case, it'd be wise to have an extra provision put in. And I don't want to speak for Sean, but I think there was some agreement on that additional clause being put in.
I do know that there was one of the concerns that I had with respect to that I mean, even if you look at the building, it looks from the, there's a nice little balcony and windows, and it looks like it's being built in a way that would allow for that maybe at some point in the future. And that would be of concern to me. Or do we have the ability to add a clause like that?
The committee can. It is covered already in the zoning bylaw, but as John has noted, it's just an additional layer of security that the committee could include.
How do other committee members feel about that? Mr. Woods?
My own thoughts on it were a little more along the lines of the objection from the Lake Association. How much weight does that carry? I mean, that's an association representing a lot of cottagers, not just the ones right beside. Are they concerned about the height? Are they concerned about the location or the proximity to the water?
So it was the proximity to the water, the conversion of the second story to living quarters, as well as removal of vegetation to accommodate the proposed development. So I have outlined the reasons why from a planning perspective, I'm supporting the application. It's a lot where there is limited options to build that would comply with our zoning bylaw. And other locations, because of where the driveway and septic are, is my understanding, it's not possible to easily access those without significant alteration, installing a new septic system in a different location, et cetera. So for those reasons, I feel it has met the requirements or the tests of a minor variance, and am supportive of it.
So there's not a height restriction problem or anything like that, as far as you,
Correct. It falls within the permitted height for a garage.
okay.
And I think if we do add a condition about accommodation, that would address some of the concerns that they had. Maybe not all of the concerns, but some of them.
And when I looked at this.
You first raise your hand to be acknowledged and put your speaker on. Thanks.
Christine Sharp. When I looked at the site, it didn't look like there was very much vegetation at all that needs to be removed. There were a few little kind of saplings. Most of the vegetation there is actually along the shore road portion of it. So I don't know if anybody from the Lake Association sort of noted that, but and it literally is the only place with the restricted space that he's got that he can put it. And it is set back from the cottage, closer to the road. So
I don't know about it being set back from the cottage closer to the road. It looks like it's pretty much on the same line as the cottage, even closer to the water. And there are 3 or 4 fairly substantial trees that need to be cut down, but they're not right on the shoreline. They're back further. But yeah, it does, given the restrictions of the septic system, looks like it's a difficult placement. Is there someone representing the applicants that wishes to speak to the application?
The property owner is present, so we can bring them in.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. Can't see you,
Okay.
but we can hear you.
I can see you.
Okay. Is there anything that you'd like to advise us about your application? There you are.
There's really nothing I can add. Everything you said is fine with me, and it kind of entails what I've put forth in the application. There really is no vegetation down there. And you are correct, there will be a couple of trees I have to take out, but I think those were added by the previous owner and they're on the driveway side. And that's just a function of how I'm gonna use it to pull into my garage.
Right.
So there's nothing I can do about that. Your objections are fair, and I'd be willing to do whatever you need me to do.
Do members of the committee have questions for Mr. Kelly? Hearing none. Could I have a mover and a seconder to recommend approval for the application? Sabrina Richards, seconded by John Rogers.
Yeah, seconded. I'm not sure if Sabrina was willing to add the 4th clause about no living quarters and no water fixtures, interior water fixtures.
So that would be an added condition to our approval.
I don't have a problem with that. I think that's fine,
Okay.
given how close it is to the water.
And to clarify, is that restricting water fixtures to the second story, but they would be permitted in the lower portion, the garage portion?
If we wish to do it that way, I was intending it to be no interior water fixtures at all.
Okay.
But because that And the other thing about interior water fixtures, it requires a septic connection if you have any interior water fixture
Right.
requires exterior is you can wash trucks and cars and that sort of thing. Interior starts creating waste disposal issues.
Right.
I don't know that it would change the, you know, it wouldn't require any change to the septic system as long as there were no bedrooms added. There was no sleeping quarters. So I'd be satisfied with no water fixtures going to the second story. But I can see how a person might want to have access to water in a garage if they, you know, if they wanted to wash a vehicle, or there's all kinds of reasons why you might want to have a tap
There's no
attached.
reason why you can't have that tap outside. That's what he suggested.
Oh, I see.
Instead of having it inside, have the tap outside. You can still wash your truck and do all those things, but once it's inside, you require disposal.
I think Mr. Kelly's got a comment that he'd like to make about that.
I have an exterior tap right beside where I am requesting to build. So I
Okay.
wouldn't run water, and it's just, it's a headache. I'm not gonna run water in there.
Thank you. You've just made it easier for us.
Whatever I can do, thanks.
So if you could read the amended resolution, that'd be great.
Sure. Sorry, who was the mover? And
Sabrina Richards, John Rogers.
I move by Sabrina Richards, second by John Rogers. Be it resolved, the Committee of Adjustment hereby grants minor variance application H MV 02022 to seek relief from section 4.2.8 of the zoning bylaw to reduce the minimum setback from the high water mark from 30 meters to 6 meters to permit the construction of a 2-story, 724 square foot detached garage. Conditional on the following. One, confirmation being provided from an Ontario land surveyor that the proposed detached garage is not located closer than 6 meters from the high water mark prior to any clearing or site alteration or the issuance of a building permit. 2, a site assessment and or environmental impact assessment being completed to the satisfaction of the planner, confirming there will be no negative environmental impacts resulting from the proposed development. 3, that appropriate construction mitigation measures be implemented, including the erection and maintenance of silt fencing between the proposed building and the shoreline. 4, no living quarters being permitted within the second story of the garage. And 5, no plumbing being installed within the garage.
Over to you.
All those in favor?
I kind of anticipated that you go one at a time. You're not used to.
When we're meeting in person, we can just a vote, a verbal vote is sufficient.
That makes
Yeah.
life easier. Okay. Well, I can do that.
Sure, all right.
All in favor? That's carried. Well, your application has been approved, Mr. Kelly. I'm quite sure you probably won't start construction immediately, but there is a 20-day appeal period before any construction can take place. Good luck with your building.
Thank you very much, and thank you to all the committee members and everyone who came out.
So our next application is by Williams to construct a dwelling on Beach Lake.
This property is located at 1088 Whiskey Jack Lane. The subject lands are zoned shoreline residential type 2 and designated waterfront under the official plan. The property is approximately 3.8 acres in area with 33 meters of frontage on Beach Lake. Surrounding uses are generally shoreline residential, and the lands are currently developed with a dwelling, sleeping cabin, and a dry land boathouse. The applicants are proposing to demolish the existing dwelling and construct a new 1,300 square foot dwelling. The proposed dwelling will be constructed in the same general footprint of the existing dwelling. However, it will be slightly closer to the high water mark. The existing dwelling is currently set back 31 meters, and then proposed will be set back 25 meters. Existing site infrastructure, including a hydro line, septic, and driveway, along with topographical constraints, do limit the available building location for the proposed dwelling that would comply with the zoning bylaw. Therefore, the following minor variance is being requested, and that is from table 2 to reduce the minimum setback from the high water mark from 30 meters to 25 meters to permit the construction of a 1,300 square foot dwelling. Notice of the application was posted on the property, posted on the township website, circulated to property owners within 60 meters of the subject lands, as well as to the Maple Beach and Cameron Lakes Area Property Owners Association. No objections have been received, and staff are recommending approval of the proposed minor variance with the following conditions. One, confirmation being provided from an Ontario land surveyor that the proposed dwelling is not located closer than 25 meters from the high water mark prior to any clearing, site alteration, or the issuance of a building permit. 2, any on-site sewage system permits and reviews required by the township have been obtained and approved prior to the issuance of a building permit. And 3, that appropriate construction mitigation measures be implemented, including the erection and maintenance of silt fencing between the proposed building and the shoreline.
Yeah, thank you. Any questions from the committee members of Sean? Mr. Woods?
The proposed building itself, is it going to be single story or 2-story? Do we know that?
My understanding is it's a single story with a walkout basement, but I believe the applicant is here, so they may be able to clarify that.
He did tell us
Reserve
yesterday
that to till then. Unless you know.
He did say yesterday that when we were there that he was planning on having a walkout basement.
So a single
Other-
level.
Single story.
Thank you.
Any other questions of Sean? Mr. Williams? One question that I did have, Sean, was if you know the required distance between the residence and the garage. And I apologize, I should have asked you that in advance.
I believe it's 2 meters.
There we go. There we go. Hi,
Good
guys.
afternoon.
Good afternoon. I just wanted to say thank you to Sean and Greg and the entire council and the mayor for stopping by. It was great to see everybody, and I've got to say, what a pleasure to deal with everybody up here. It's fabulous, first of all. I know you had a question, the distance between the house and the garage. It's going to be approximately 5 meters in between. It is going to be a single story, 1,400 square foot bungalow with a walkout basement, and basically the lot's terraced, so it leads to a perfect walkout basement scenario. So it's a good lot for that.
My reason for the question about the distance between the two buildings
Yeah.
was that I just wondered if there was any wiggle room at all to move the building, the residence back a little bit. Any further distance that we can get away from the high water mark, the better. But I'm not quite sure what the rationale is there.
The reason I kept the distance between the buildings is because to get down to the water type thing with anything bigger than a lawn tractor type thing. I wanted to have access. My neighbors next door, they really have a really steep road going down, so they cut through my property a lot of times, and I want to try and keep that open for them too, so they can get their lawn tractor down and everything else. And ultimately, we asked for the 5 meters because that would give me the separation distance. But once we sort of get the lot ready, I'd like to move it back if I can, but it depends. I wanted the 5 meters more as a buffer just in case, but we are going to try and keep them fairly close with basically, like I said, a 10 to 15 foot separation between the two. So,
But we were also restricted with the hydro lines as well.
yeah, that was the other.
Well,
part of it.
and we understand the need for access too.
Yeah.
Are there any questions that the committee members have of the applicant? Well, hearing none.
There is one other person here that wanted to speak to the application, so I
Okay.
bring them in.
Hey there. Hey, Glenn. We're
Hey, Brad.
just a couple down. I don't actually.
Yep.
I was on just to listen for it. I
Oh.
don't have anything to add or change. I was like, we saw the notice, and I was like, must well call in and hear what it's about. So
Well, thanks.
sounds like it's a good place you're building. Good luck with that.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, yeah.
Mr. Middleton, did you wish to address the committee?
No, sorry, this is
Make
my first
comments,
time. I got the notice and thought I should just listen to if I wanted to listen in. That's mostly it. We had done an application for my parents' cottage, which is beside probably last year. So
Yeah.
wanted to just understand what this process is like.
So you have no comments necessarily for or against the application?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. Well, hearing no further questions or comments, could I have a mover and a seconder to move this application forward? Member Richards, Member Woods, thank you.
Moved by Sabrina Richards, seconded by Chris Woods. Be it resolved, the Committee of Adjustment hereby grants minor variance application AHMV 2122 to seek relief from Table 2 of the zoning bylaw to reduce the minimum setback from the high water mark from 30 meters to 25 meters to permit the construction of a 1,300 square foot dwelling, conditional on the following. One, confirmation being provided from an Ontario land surveyor that the proposed dwelling is not located closer than 25 meters from the high water mark prior to any clearing or site alteration or the issuance of a building permit. Two, that any on-site sewage system permits and reviews required by the township have been obtained and approved prior to the issuance of a building permit. And three, that appropriate construction mitigation measures be implemented, including the erection and maintenance of silt fencing between the proposed building and the shoreline.
Excuse me for interrupting.
All right.
I have a question now that I just, as you were reading it, it kind of dawned on me. Is there going to be a deck put on this extension or this renovation?
Yeah,
It's my
there's-
understanding that at some point in the future, there will be a deck added, which
Will that be closer to the water than the proposal?
If it is, it would still be in compliance with the zoning bylaw. It requires I believe it's a 36-foot setback from the high water mark. So it'll be well beyond the required setback.
Thank you.
And of note too, that deck, it's in the drawings, but we're gonna sort of play it by ear once the house is up because we have a rather big maple tree that we don't want to lose there. So if the maple tree's got to go for the deck, then we'll lose the deck type thing. So.
that's all right. All in favor? That's carried. Your application has been approved. Just a reminder that there is a 20-day appeal period and no construction can take place. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon in the sunshine.
Thank you. And
Thanks, you as well.
the one quick question I had is, I think Sean answered it for me, but I can submit my building permit and paperwork and everything, I'll say on Monday. And it can go through the process and sit there until the 20-day, or do I need to wait the 20 days before I submit?
I would suggest waiting at least a week.
Okay.
They're quite fast at turning the permits around.
Yeah. Yeah. No, Greg's been great, and I know Rob Wilby's building it, or will be contracting his building for us, and he's doing our septic and, home hardware house. So it's all, we're keeping all the money up here, which is kind of nice. You know what I mean? We're not bringing anything up from the city really, so it's kind of good. So we're really happy.
Sounds good. Good luck with your project.
Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
time, everybody. Really appreciate it.
Okay, the last application is by Rotary in the township of Sherburne, who wish to build a garage.
Yes, this property is located at 1038 Livingston Lake Road, and the lands are zoned hamlet residential and designated as being part of the Dorset settlement area within the official plan. The property is approximately 0.89 acres in area with 46.73 meters of frontage on Livingston Lake Road. Surrounding uses are generally rural residential and commercial, and the lands are currently developed with a single family dwelling. The applicants are proposing to construct a 1-story, 384 square foot detached garage. One thing to note is this property was subject to a zoning bylaw amendment application in 2021 with respect to the construction of the house, and that was to reduce the setback from the creek that runs through the property from 30 meters to 20 meters. That application was approved and the house has since been constructed. For the garage, a similar variance is being requested, and that is because of the creek running through the property. So the variance being requested is from section 4.2.8 of the zoning bylaw to reduce the minimum setback from the high water mark from 30 meters to 15 meters. And another thing to note with that, member Rogers actually brought to my attention, the drawing shows the measurement is to the center line of the creek and not to the high water mark, which would be the edge of the bank. So what I would suggest is that the decision is, should committee wish to approve it, the decision be amended to note the center line of the creek versus the high water mark. So that's just one note. Notice of the application was posted on the property, posted on the township website, and circulated to property owners within 60 meters of the subject lands. No objections have been received, and staff are recommending approval of the proposed minor variance with the following conditions. One, confirmation being provided from an Ontario land surveyor that the proposed detached garage is not located closer than 15 meters from the high water mark prior to any clearing or site alteration or the issuance of a building permit. And two, that appropriate construction mitigation measures being implemented, including the erection and maintenance of silt fencing between the proposed building and the creek.
Questions from committee members of Sean? Mr. Woods.
There is looks like a pipe or a well or something to the north side of the building where the garage apparently is going. Is it going to be close to that pipe, or is it going to be on top of that pipe, or what is that pipe?
So I do believe that's the well, and it's showing it's 1.4 meters.
Is that normal to be that close to a well?
The zoning bylaw does not speak to setbacks from wells. So I'm sorry, I don't have the answer to how close it could actually be.
I'm just thinking of contamination, et cetera, to their water. But, you know, what do I know? I'm not a builder.
Christine.
The only thing I would say, it is a drilled well, and the garage, I would imagine, I haven't seen the plans, but I would imagine it's going to be built on slab. So it's the deepest they would go down into the ground would be just below frost. So maybe 3.5, 4 feet. So it shouldn't contaminate it.
Any other questions of Sean? Mr. Rogers.
I did also, when I looked at the site plan that we have before us, it talks about a 14.5 distance plus or minus to center line. So even though they've asked for 15, I would suggest that we actually say 14.5 because that's what their site plan asks for. I have no problem. I think it's a valid minor variance request. It's just we better make sure it's the right numbers, or they're going to be back before us again in the very near future.
Okay, good point. Thank you. Is the applicant present?
Yes, they are.
Okay, you want to bring them in?
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. You are the owner?
Yes, I just want to add that we moved full time here in Muskoka, and we just realized that we have too much stuff that we brought with us, and it's a lot of snow in Muskoka, and we need a snow blower and lots of shovels and no space where to keep them. My husband currently has a trailer which doesn't look very appealing on the property. So I'm hoping for this to be approved so we can build a storage place, a garage.
We made a good decision to move here. No doubt about it.
Thank you.
Are there any questions of the applicant from the committee members? Hearing none, could I have a mover and a seconder to approve the application? Member Rogers, Member Richards.
Could you just wait, clarify that? my
That-
motion
that it
is
would be an
it's,
amended motion.
14.5, to center line.
Moved by John Rogers, second by Sabrina Richards, be it resolved that the Committee of Adjustment hereby grants minor variance application AHMV 22 to seek relief from section 4.2.8 of the zoning bylaw to reduce the minimum setback from the center line of creek from 30 meters to 14.5 meters to permit the construction of a 384 square foot detached garage. Conditional on confirmation being provided from an Ontario land surveyor that the proposed detached garage is not located closer than 14.5 meters from the center line of creek prior to any clearing or site alteration or the issuance of a building permit. And two, that appropriate construction mitigation measures be implemented, including the erection and maintenance of silt fencing between the proposed building and the shoreline.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's carried. So your application is approved. There is a 20-day appeal period, and so no construction can take place until that time is, until you've got through that period of time.
Thank you very much.
Good luck with your building.
Thank you.
So that concludes the items, new items or items of new business. The one thing that I just wanted to check that isn't on the agenda is the next meeting date.
So we do have applications, so I would propose the end of March, so March 31st is the next.
Is everyone available on that date?
That's what I'm just checking.
You traveling?
Yes, I am. I'm back. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so that's the next meeting date. Any comments? Mr. Rogers?
One thing, Madam Chair, the Association of Committees of Adjustment have generated a very useful, I think, series of six videos that tell and help introduce folks to what adjustments are all about and various responsibilities of committees of adjustment. Sean is a member of the association. There is a cost per municipality, I think, of $300 or something, but I was wondering if we could perhaps arrange even to have a little session where we, as a group, could watch the.
I'm glad you brought that up because, you know, we do have new members and I had spoken to Sean already about some form of training and if you could speak to that, Sean.
Yeah, you stole my thunder. I was, yeah, we have budgeted for that, so we will certainly be moving forward with that purchase, yeah.
That'd be great.
Well, and if it's a series of videos that we can watch at our leisure and, you know, that would be great. Maybe, you know, have a discussion about it at some point. If there's any questions or comments or observations you want to make, we'll do that.
I don't know if it'd be possible, but even just like, or how long they are, but even just, you know, an hour or so before the next meeting or something where we can sort of look at them together. And then if there are any questions or we need clarification around anything, you'd be here to sort of answer it.
Yeah, we can look
Yeah.
at different options, yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay,
Mhm.
Oh.
Sorry. That'd be helpful if we could set it up that way that just sort of projected on the screen and we're here come an hour early for a couple of meetings and
Yeah.
because I think it'll take a couple of meetings to.
do you know the duration of the
I
films?
think they're 15 or 20 minutes each, I think is my understanding.
Yeah, that does sound correct.
And there's 6 of them?
Yeah, that's my recollection of it.
Yeah, I believe there's 6.
So maybe we could do like 3 in the first one meeting and 3 the next.
Mhm. Yeah, that'd be great.
Well, we will look to you to organize that.
Very good.
Any other comments or questions?
No.
Well, then I would ask if there is a motion to adjourn. Mr. Rogers, Ms. Sharp.
Moved by John Rogers, second by Christine Sharp. Be it resolved, the Committee of Adjustment hereby adjourns its regular meeting at 1:39 PM.
All in favor? That's carried. And just a note, these meetings are not always this short. Sometimes they are, though.